Hello, I am Michael Golden, and welcome to Mayor's Ham Shack. We are here to discuss Section A of Part 3 of the Technician License Exam. In this section, we're going to be talking about radio wave propagation, and specifically in Section A, we're going to talk about radio wave characteristics, how a radio signal travels, fading, multipath, polarization, wavelength versus absorption, and antenna orientation. Now, we could get very detailed into the physics of a lot of the different things we're going to be talking about. But, especially since you can't use your radio yet, you can experience some of these things if you have like an RTL SDR and things like that. But since you actually can't manipulate the wave yourself because you can't transmit, some of these concepts may be difficult to really grasp. So I highly recommend that you do what you can to memorize the answers best you can. And as you go along, pick up a couple of the facts, even though you may not understand the intricacies of what's going on. If you just understand the basic facts, they'll help you a lot in passing the test. There are 12 questions in this section, and we will get started. Uh, Before we get started, however, please go ahead and click that like button and please subscribe so that you get alerts on all these videos that come out, as well as some of the other things I'll be going on in my channel. And if you have any questions, problems, concerns, please leave a comment below and I'll be glad to address them as soon as possible. So let's begin. Question 1. Why do VHF signal strengths sometimes vary greatly when the antenna is moved only a few feet? A. The signal path encounters different concentrations of water vapor. B. VHF ionospheric propagation is very sensitive to path length. C. Multipath propagation cancels or reinforces signals. Or D. All of these choices are correct. So a lot of times when we see all of these choices are correct, there's actually a pretty low probability that that one's going to be the correct answer. So we need to kind of talk about the other ones and see if we can get at least two to match up properly. So let's go with A here. The signal path encounters different concentrations of water vapor. This is extremely specific. And although on really high frequencies, well beyond VHF, more into microwave type, things like precipitation can very much affect the signal. VHF is not uh, significantly affected by simply water vapor or humidity. So A is not correct. So we also know now that D is not correct. So we have two answers left. So let's look at B. VHF ionospheric propagation is very sensitive to path length. So VHF doesn't really use ionospheric propagation in that aspect. So let's look at C. Multipath propagation cancels or reinforces signals. So this is true. Again, just kind of something you want to memorize. So the correct answer is C. Now, I looked at a lot of different things about how multipath propagation cancels and reinforces signals, and found a lot of different professors arguing about how this works and things like that. So, again, just memorize this question. We don't want to get too deep into physics here. We just generally want to talk on the radio and do some cool scientific things that have to do with physics, but we really don't want to get too deep, especially right at now. We just want to pass the test. 2. What is the effect of vegetation on UHF and microwave signals? A. Knife edge diffraction. B. Absorption. C. Amplification. Or D. Polarization rotation. So, as I talked about in the previous question, when we talked about water vapor, Really high frequencies are more affected by things in the environment. So, vegetation, not huge effect on VHF, but can have a bigger effect on UHF. And like precipitation can affect microwave, UHF, although not as a problem when it comes to precipitation, can be affected by things that VHF and high frequency aren't affected as much by. So this is a real simple answer. The answer is B, absorption. It is not amplified. It doesn't have any diffraction, or the polarization does not change when it goes through vegetation. Simply has more absorption. 3. What antenna polarization is normally used for long distance CW and SSB contacts on the VHF and UHF bands? A. Right hand circular. B. Left hand circular. C. Horizontal. D. Vertical. So, again, this is kind of going back to just the things you need to know can be very physics. Right hand circular, left hand circular can be important when we're talking about satellites, but we're not talking about satellites here. We're talking about just across the Earth. We want to do CW or SSB, and we are also talking about VHF and UHF. Uh, so no high frequency stuff going on here. Right hand circular, left hand circular can be VHF, UHF, but again, oftentimes has more to do with satellites than anything. So we're left with horizontal and vertical. Okay, so horizontal, think of the horizon. You have your antenna going long ways, across, say, your yard or something like that. That would be horizontal. And vertical, going all the way up above your roof, up into the sky, going straight up. So those are your two options on this. Now, when we're talking about long distance, we kind of want the best takeoff angle possible. And when we talk about takeoff angle, horizontal ends up being the best option. And the takeoff angle is, in essence, how do we go straight out towards the horizon? Or are we just going straight up and things like that? So horizontal is the best way to just go straight out to get the furthest distance possible. Number 4. What happens when antennas at opposite ends of a VHF or UHF line of sight radio link are not using the same polarization? A. The modulation sidebands might become inverted. B. Received signal strength is reduced. C. Signals have an echo effect. Or D. Nothing significant will happen. So again, when we're talking about polarization, we're mostly worried about that horizontal polarization and that vertical polarization. What way is your antenna situated? Is it straight up and down, or is it across your yard going left to right? So this is just kind of because you haven't done it, you haven't played with it, probably don't know too much about it. So we're just going to go straight to the answer. B, receive signal strength is reduced. So the way your wave goes out is the polarization. And if you're horizontal and the other person is vertical, they don't quite receive the signal at the same angle that the wave is coming at them. So they can still hear it oftentimes, but maybe not as strong. Number 5. When using a directional antenna, how might your station be able to communicate with a distant repeater if buildings or obstructions are blocking the direct line of sight path? A. Change from vertical to horizontal polarization. B. Try to find a path that reflects signals to the repeater. C. Try the long path. Or D. Increase the antenna SWR. So, one of the interesting things you can do with VHF UHF is you can actually reflect signals. There's even a mode called Earth moon Earth, where you actually can shoot your signal up to the moon and it will bounce off and come back down to the Earth. Our military has even used this, especially around during World War II, try to get signals from Washington all the way to California and Hawaii. So I just kind of gave away the answer there for you. The answer is B. Try to find a path that reflects signals to the repeater. You can even use mountains. You can use a different different geographical features to do this. Like I talked about, you can use the moon, although that's a lot harder. That's generally more for like digital and CW modes. But you can reflect your signals. Number 6. What is the meaning of the term picket fencing? A. Alternating transmissions during a net operation. B. Rapid flutter on mobile signals due to multipath propagation. C. A type of ground system used with vertical antennas. Or D. Local versus long distance communications. So anytime I think of this term here, picket fencing, I think of the boy or girl on their bike with the stick going across a picket fence, and they're hitting all the fence posts as they go on by. And this kind of makes kind of a similar sound. And that's how I know it is B, rapid flutter on mobile signals due to multipath propagation. So there you're getting multipath because your car is moving and you're shooting your signal out. So in one instance it could be going through a house, the next instance it's not, and it can kind of create a little bit of that picket fencing sound going on that is caused by the multipath to the other person. Number 7. What weather condition might decrease range of at microwave frequencies? A. High winds. B. Low barometric pressure. C. Precipitation. Or D. Colder temperatures. So when you're thinking of microwave, any sort of obstruction can kill the signal quickly. From walls to trees to just about anything that can get in its way. So high winds doesn't really actually put any obstacles in the way. B, low barometric pressure, same idea. D, colder temperatures doesn't really do anything uh, other than maybe clear out the atmosphere. So C, precipitation, so rain, snow, can actually affect microwave frequencies when you're shooting them out. If you don't have enough power, they can get completely attenuated in the precipitation. 8. What is likely cause of irregular fading of signal propagated by the ionosphere? A. Frequency shift due to Faraday rotation. B. Interference from thunderstorms. C. Intermodulation distortion. Or D. Random combining of signals arriving via different paths. So the last couple times we've talked about multipathing here and how it can affect, kind of like the picket fencing, it can make it sound different to you. Multipath can even make an echoey sound. So, and it can also combine and make it even harder to hear depending on how it's hitting. So, again, let's memorize here. D. Random combining of signals arriving via different paths. Number 9. Which of the following results from the fact that signals propagated by the ionosphere are elliptically polarized? A. Digital modes are unusable. B. Either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas may be used for transmission or reception. C. FM voices unusable. D. Both the transmitting and receiving antennas must be the same polarization. So what this is saying is when your signal goes out, and you could be either horizontally or vertically polarized going out, gets into the ionosphere, and goes back to the receiver as elliptically polarized by the way it played around in the ionosphere. So, what then can you do? Well, you don't have to do much of anything. Either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas may be used for transmission or reception. So, both antennas, because you're becoming more of like a circle or an ellipses rather than just being straight horizontal or straight vertical. So at that point, either type of antenna can really pick up that signal no problem. What effect does multipath propagation have on data transmission? A. Transmission rates must be increased by a factor equal to the number of separate paths observed. B. Transmission rates must be decreased by a factor equal to the number of separate paths observed. C. No significant changes will occur if the signals are transmitted using FM. Or D. Error rates are likely to increase. So data can be a bit more tricky than simple voice. Voice is just pure analog, and a lot of times our brains are even designed where if we don't get all of a message, we can kind of fill in the information on its own and figure out what the person's trying to say. Not as much with data transmissions, especially if you don't have any sort of error correction going on, like we do a lot of times in the computing world. In some modes we do in ham radio do have error correction involved with them. So the answer here is error rates are likely to increase. Okay, so we have the fading, the coming, the picket fencing. We have all these different things going on. It's going to cause more errors, which means either the data has to be retransmitted or algorithms have to figure out how to put the data together. Number 11. Which region of the atmosphere can refract or bend HF and VHF radio waves? A. The stratosphere, B. The troposphere, C. The ionosphere, or D. The mesosphere? And we've talked about this one a lot already. It is the ionosphere. Number 12, last question. What is the effect of fog and rain on signals in the 10 meter and 6 meter bands? A. Absorption. B. There's little effect. C. Deflection. Or D. Range increase. So we've talked about precipitation as it pertains to microwave, the real high frequency waves. 10 and 6 meters, we're talking longer waves. So microwave, we're talking about like 23 centimeter wavelength or smaller. So really short waves, really tiny waves. While 10 or 6 meters or longer, the wave is 10 meters long or 6 meters long. So these do a much better job of dealing with these minor issues. So there is little effect. The answer is B. So now what we're going to do, like in my other videos, we're going to go back. We're going to start at question 1. I'm just going to read the question, give you a few seconds to think about it, and then give you the answer. We'll do that for all 12 questions. Question 1. Why do VHF signal strengths sometimes vary greatly when the antenna is moved only a few feet? A. The signal path encounters different concentrations of water vapor. B. VHF ionospheric propagation is very sensitive to path length. C. Multipath propagation cancels or reinforces signals. D. All of these choices are correct. And the correct answer is C. Multipath propagation cancels and reinforces signals. Question 2. What is the effect of vegetation on UHF and microwave signals? A. Knife edge diffraction. B. Absorption. C. Amplification. Or D. Polarization rotation. And the correct answer is B. Absorption. C. What antenna, or I'm sorry, 3. What antenna polarization is normally used for long distance CW and SSB contacts on the VHF and UHF bands? A. Right hand circular. B. Left hand circular. C. Horizontal. Or D. Vertical. And the correct answer is C. Horizontal. 4. What happens when antennas at opposite ends of a VHF or UHF line of sight radio link are not using the same polarization? A. The modulation sidebands might become inverted. B. Receive signal strength is reduced. C. Signals have an echo effect. Or D. Nothing significant will happen. And the correct answer is B. Receive signal strength is reduced. Number 5. When using a directional antenna, how might your station be able to communicate with a distant repeater if buildings or obstructions are blocking the direct line of sight path? A. Change from a vertical to horizontal polarization. B. Try to find a path that reflects signals to the repeater. C. Try the long path. Or D. Increase the antenna SWR. And the correct answer is B. Try to find a path that reflects signals to the repeater. Number 6. What is the meaning of the term picket fencing? A. Alternating transmissions during a net operation. B. Rapid flutter on mobile signals due to multipath propagation. C. A type of ground system used with vertical antennas. Or D. Local versus long distance communications. And the correct answer is B. Rapid flutter on mobile signals due to multipath propagation. Number 7. What weather condition might decrease the range at microwave frequencies? A. High winds. B. Low barometric pressure. C. Precipitation. Or D. Colder temperatures. And the correct answer is C. Precipitation. Number 8. What is likely cause of irregular fading of signals propagated by the ionosphere? A. Frequency shift due to Faraday rotation. B. Interference from thunderstorms. C. Intermodulation distortion. D. Random combining of signals arriving via different paths. And the correct answer is D. Random combining of signals arriving via different paths. Number 9. Which of the following results from the fact that signals propagated by the ionosphere are elliptically polarized? A. Digital modes are unusable. B. Either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas may be used for transmission or reception. C. FM voice is unusable. D. Both the transmitting and receiving antennas must be of the same polarization. And the correct answer is B. Either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas may be used for transmission or reception. Number 10. What effect does multipath propagation have on data transmissions? A. Transmission rates must be increased by a factor equal to the number of separate paths observed. B. Transmission rates must be decreased by a factor equal to the number of separate paths observed. C. No significant changes will occur if the signals are transmitted using FM. Or D. Error rates are likely to increase. And the correct answer is D. Error rates are likely to increase. Number 11. Which region of the atmosphere can refract or bend HF and VHF radio waves? A. The stratosphere. B. The troposphere. C. The ionosphere. Or D. The mesosphere. And the correct answer is C. The ionosphere. Number 12. What is the effect of fog and rain on signals in the 10-meter and 6-meter bands? A. Absorption. B. There is little effect. C. Deflection. Or D. Range increase. And the correct answer is B. There is little effect. Thank you so much for taking the time to study these questions with me. Again, if you have any questions or problems, please leave a comment. Hit that like button and subscribe so that you keep up to date on all the videos coming out. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. This is KM8YOR 73s.